I want to try to see if I can like inject my link, futuretools.io. We're figuring out cool use cases in real time on this episode right now. Hey, it linked to Future Tools.
I'm telling you, people are saying this is like a great SEO hack right now.
Hey, welcome to the Next Wave podcast. I'm Matt Wolf, and once again, I'm here with Nathan Lands. And today we're talking once again about AI use cases. And I feel like a lot of people sort of know the surface level uses of AI, right? You kind of know how to go have conversations with ChatGPT or Claude, or maybe make an image with Midjourney. But so many people are just sort of looking at the tip of the iceberg, and that iceberg goes so deep. There are so many cool things that you can do with these AI tools. And in this episode, we're going to deep dive into some of the more interesting use cases that you can use AI for. Some of them fairly basic and easy to implement. And one of them is a little more complex and sort of a deep dive into literally how I'm using AI to run my business. I sort of pull back the curtain and show you the whole process of what I'm doing to run my Future Tools website using AI. And we're going to get to all of that in this episode. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of it and learn a whole bunch of new ways to use AI. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I can just go ahead and kick it off. I'll share a fairly simple, basic one that I use. This one is using Claude. I use Claude a lot. So a lot of my workflows use Claude. I love making projects inside of Claude. But one of these little projects that I made is called the News Summarizer. So if you watch my other YouTube channel, every Friday I put out an AI news video where I break down like, here's all of the latest AI news for the week. And this is pretty much how I come up with like what I'm going to say about the news for the most part, is I've created this News Summarizer here. And I'll go ahead and show you my system prompt. I'll read it off as well for anybody that's listening. But I have this system prompt here. It says, I will upload or paste in an article, PDF, or video transcript. Your job is to respond with bullet points with the following information. Summarize the content into bullet points, making it easy to understand the concepts or ideas presented. Tell me what we can do now as a result of this information that we could not do before. What makes this novel? Tell me how I should report on this in the news. If I was to give a news broadcast and explain why this information was important, what should I tell the viewers so that the most amount of people can understand it? The format of the response should be, and then I give a little format here, summary, bullet, 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 what makes it novel, bullet, 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 and then how should I describe this news or concept in a simple way that anyone can understand when I report on it? If it makes sense, use an analogy. So that's the whole system prompt there. And basically, what I'm telling it to do is, I'm going to give you content. It might be a PDF, might be a document, might be a copy and pasted news article. Break it down for me so I can explain it really, really easily. And one of the things that's been sort of circulating in the world of AI news this week, I'm sure you've probably seen this, Nathan, is that Doom thing, right? The AI Doom, where it's sort of generating every single frame. So as somebody like clicks the forward button, it generates the next frame in Doom. If they click the shoot button, it automatically generates the next frame. There's no like underlining
game engine.
Yeah, no game engine underneath it. It's all being generated as they're playing. So right. I have that PDF and I can drag that PDF. This is literally the research report right off of archive.org that explains the technical concept of how this works. And if you're looking at my screen right now, if you're not looking at my screen, you can look at it over on YouTube, but I just dropped the PDF right here into Claude, and I don't even add a prompt. All of my prompting was done in that system prompt that I just read. And if I just hit enter on this, it's going to read that PDF for me and then break it down with all of the information that I asked it to give me in that system prompt. So right now it's generating all of that text for me here. And here's what it says. Here's a summary and analysis of the research paper. Summary: the paper introduces Game Engine, a neural model that can simulate the classic game Doom in real time at over 20 frames per second on a single TPU, right? And it sort of summarizes what the article's about. And then the next section, what makes this novel interesting? This is the first neural model capable of simulating a complex 3D game like Doom in real time with high visual quality. It demonstrates the neural models can potentially replace traditional game engines for interactive 3D environments. etc., etc. And then it goes on to say, here's how to describe this news simply, right? So now you can start to see how, like, on my AI news videos, yes, I put a lot of work into them, but like AI supports the hell out of me for making those news videos. Right. So here's what it says for how to describe this news simply. Imagine if instead of programming every detail of a video game, we can just show an AI system examples of the game being played, and it can learn to recreate the entire game on its own. That's essentially what researchers have achieved with a classic game called Doom. They trained an AI to watch gameplay videos and then reproduce the game so accurately that even humans have trouble telling the difference between the AI version and the real thing. This could revolutionize how video games are made in the future, potentially making it much faster and easier to create complex 3D worlds and gameplay. It's like teaching an AI to be a game designer and programmer all in one, right? So that's like one of my most used workflows. And this is very relevant. We're recording this on a Thursday. I record my news videos for YouTube on a Thursday. So I was in here actually using this Claude project earlier today to start to break down my news videos. Now, every piece of news that I put in those news videos doesn't need this process, right? Like some of the news is just sort of self-explanatory. But every once in a while, I'll come across a research paper and I'm like, I want to go a little bit more in depth on this. I really want to make sure that the viewers understand what this means. And this is how I do that. I'll just plug in the research paper and it's going to simplify it for me and then tell me how I should break it down as a piece of news.
That's awesome. Like, I'm curious, like, how much time do you think this saves you?
There's a time savings, but there's also like a mental savings, right? So it probably saves me a good 15 or 20 minutes of actually like going through and reading all of the concepts within the research paper. But at the same time, these research papers are often over my head. Like, let's be honest, like once they start breaking down like math and there's like letters within the math equation and it's like IX over 15% plus 32AD plus 6. I'm like, you lost me with I, right? Like the very first letter in there, right? So like the mental load that it takes off of my plate of like me reading this research paper like 3 times to try to understand what the hell it's actually saying is probably the bigger savings than the actual time savings for me.
I feel like I should be using this for my newsletter probably. Like I don't I don't really do anything like this that much for my newsletter, but it feels like anytime there's like a complicated paper or something like that, if I could get like a nice summary of it, that'd be useful for people. I do wonder, like, if it feels like, maybe a lot of our listeners, they're probably not YouTubers, so they're probably like, okay, how do I use this? Yeah. It feels like you could use this in a lot of different parts of business, right? Like even if it was like contracts or whatever, any kind of complicated papers, almost anything, any kind of PDF, you could make a project in Claude or even using, ChatGPT. Maybe Claude's kind of better for this right now, though.
Yeah.
You could create a custom project and kind of tell it like, okay, here's the kind of data to expect, and here's kind of like what I want out of the data. Here's the kind of stuff that's actually important to me, and then just feed the data in, and like it does an amazing job of just like spitting out stuff that's actually important for you.
Yeah. I mean, I originally came up with this concept for my newsletter. Now I have help. I have extra writers and editors helping write the newsletter for me. But I originally generated this as a custom GPT over in ChatGPT, but I actually like the way Claude does it better. I like Claude's projects better. I like the way it's organized better. I think Sonnet 3.5 gives me better outputs than what the current model of GPT-4 gives me. So I sort of re-implemented it over in Claude to get the same thing, but now I've started using it for videos instead of my newsletter. But honestly, like, this can just be used for anything you want explained more simply, right? Like if you come across some sort of article that you're like, that seems like it's pretty interesting, but it's over my head. Like, how do I understand this? Like, how do I just like grasp it? Stuff like this really helps to just like grasp concepts, like use some analogies, give me bullet points, explain it as simply as possible.
It feels like OpenAI really dropped the ball with like not having something like the Claude projects.
Yeah,
like the projects are so useful. I think like you first learned about the projects or how to use them like on this podcast, right? Like I told you like, oh, that just came out, and you're like, oh, cool, I heard about that. Like, what is it? And I'm like, here's how you use it. And,
I think so. The first time I ever used them, I think you sort of like, I knew artifacts and I was using the artifacts thing, and I was like, I saw projects. But in my mind, projects were just like a folder to store stuff in. I didn't realize it had the custom instructions and the ability to upload additional like information that it would, sort of retrieve when you're prompting. And I didn't know it had that extra stuff yet when we talked about it on the podcast. And now I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I'm in here all day.
Yeah.
Look, in the next 30 seconds, I'm about to let you in on something that will completely change your marketing strategy with AI. Back when we met with Greg Eisenberg, he summed up the widespread fascination with AI perfectly. Everyone from your barber to Jeff Bezos is interested in AI. So if you want to drop some AI knowledge during your next haircut, HubSpot has a new trend report that is packed with original research and data on all the AI trends to watch for this year. This PDF is the ultimate resource for you. You'll learn the top 5 AI marketing tools everyone's talking about, the tools that are driving significant return on investment, and it answers the question on everyone's mind. Is AI helping or hurting your career trajectory? You can steal the research findings from this report to revolutionize your business strategy and transform the way you work. So if you want it, grab your free copy from the link in the description below. Now back to the show.
I mean, I think most listeners probably don't even understand even like custom instructions, or that ChatGPT has that. They've had that. They were the kind of the first to have custom instructions where, and I feel like sometimes when people are talking about the quality of these models, I do wonder, like, have they ever used custom instructions? Maybe they haven't. Like I probably should show my custom instructions at some point, but I feel like it gives me a lot better results from the model. Like I tell it to like, okay, be less politically correct, be more straightforward, tell me the truth, and all these kind of things. And I kind of tell like what level of detail do I want, and you can give it, give the models those kind of custom instructions. Now, the thing that Claude's doing better than OpenAI is that you can have different projects with different custom instructions based on what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, you can technically do it in ChatGPT. You just create a GPT for each thing, because you can give every GPT its own custom instructions. The problem I was having with ChatGPT was I actually built a GPT to do this kind of thing for me. And it worked really, really well for several weeks. And then one day I went in there and tried to use it, and it wasn't formatting the information correctly, and it wasn't giving me analogies like I was asking it to. Just like one day it started ignoring my custom instructions, and I'm like, what happened? And I went and opened the custom instructions in that GPT. Nothing changed. They were the same. It just felt like ChatGPT got dumber one day. And so I went and tested over on Claude, and I'm like, okay, Claude is out custom GPTing GPT,
Yeah. And I mean, OpenAI has done this a lot, where they've been making changes so quickly, and sometimes they're great, and sometimes like, oh yeah, they broke something. They came out with that memory feature, which they barely talked about, and I thought it was an amazing feature, where it's like it'll just like start adding stuff to memory. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. The model's actually remembering stuff, and then I can manually add stuff to the memory, and now it's going to remember it forever. That's awesome. And then you find out like there's like a major limit to the memory. And not only that, but it'll actually go in and like remove things from the memory. It'll be like, and even if you don't tell it to remember something, you might type something to it, and it's like, oh, it wants to remember that now, and it says memory updated. And then like literally, you can go check memory, and then sometimes that means it actually removes something else.
Yeah, it'll remember stuff that you're like, why are you remembering that specifically? That doesn't need to be remembered.
Right. Yeah, I'll be asking it for advice on something I'm doing in business or whatever, or in life, whatever, and like it'll be like memory update. I'm like, what? What are we doing?
What's your first one you want to share?
Yeah, mine is kind of a personal one. It's also, I use Claude projects for it. I think I've talked before. My entire marriage and relationship, in Japan, like when I first moved to Japan, my Japanese is very basic. I can't have full blown conversations with anyone. I can have I can say small little words enough to kind of get some basic points across. But then I started using ChatGPT for translation. And I did it through like basically the custom instructions, where I would like say like, because obviously you can tell ChatGPT to translate something for you, but it's kind of tedious when you're doing it all the time. Like, if you're translating a page, sure, you copy and paste everything and you explain what you want, but that gets annoying if you're actually in a conversation with someone, right? So basically, I would use custom instructions to make like shorthands, like saying, hey, if you see, if I put T, at the beginning of a sentence, that means I want this translated. I don't want to tell you, hey, please translate all of this. And so that's something I haven't seen people do much, is you can actually make a lot of cool shorthands yourself with ChatGPT or with Claude. And I don't really see anyone talking about that, but it's nice. You can make shorthands. Like, here's this letter or whatever, and this is what it means. And this is what I want to accomplish now. And then you just put that at the beginning of a sentence, and now it'll do what you want. So I use that for translations. I want something translated, put a T, then I put it knows to translate it. And then similar to like how you give, with your YouTube channel, you tell it all this other stuff you want it to do. I do the same thing with the translations. Like, hey, when I'm translating something to her, like, maybe give me cultural feedback too, because Japan's quite a bit different. So don't just change what I'm saying, but do give me feedback. Like if maybe for Japanese people, this is very odd to say something like this.
Yeah,
like give me cultural feedback, but don't change it without asking me, right?
Yeah.
Like I tell her all this kind of stuff. So don't change it without asking me. Also show the English underneath so I know that you didn't change anything. Because occasionally when you tell it to translate, it does change things without telling you. So you should always get a version in your own language to kind of double check. But also I've used it for more, like people were saying when we did the episode before, when I talked about this, they were like, oh, so you're literally not going to learn Japanese. I'm like, no, I'm trying to learn Japanese too. Like I'm actually trying to do both at the same time. So when I have it translate, I also have it break things down for me, which has been one of the coolest things. Like Japanese has this like 3 different types of character systems for their language. It was like makes it very complicated. You got hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Hiragana being the most basic one. So I know hiragana very well. I know katakana kind of okay, and kanji. Oh my god, that takes like a long time to learn. So what I have it do is basically anytime I translate something, I'm like, okay, what are the key words in that sentence that I should learn, and then like break them down for me in hiragana. So it'll be like, okay, you made this sentence, and then here's like 3 bullet points. I'll tell it like, I don't want to learn like 5 words at a time. Make it like 3. I'll learn like 3 words. What are the 3 most important words in that sentence? And then break them down for me, and then show me the hiragana because I can actually read that in Japanese. And that's actually helped my, it's made it a lot easier for me to learn the language. It's like, okay, here's that word. I just was wanting to translate, and now break it down for me and teach it to me. The next level, I mean, ideally in the future, like you can like, the memory will be really good, right? And you could like have the model help you learn, like, oh, Nathan needed to learn these words, or he learned these before, test him on it to see if he actually learned it. But unfortunately, they're not really like good enough to like remember all that yet. But I feel like that's probably coming soon.
Yeah. No, I noticed Riley Brown. You know Riley Brown, right? He does like short form content around AI. I saw him use a similar trick because he's doing a lot of stuff where he's using Claude to help him code up his like he's trying to make like an app a day for 30 days or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And one thing Claude tends to do when you're asking it to write code is it will write just the code that needs to be swapped out as opposed to rewriting the entire thing. So let's say, just for like a real basic example, it writes out a whole like HTML web page for you. And then you say, oh, the font at the top needs to be changed. Well, what it'll do is it'll say, okay, here's the code that needs to be changed. And it'll just give you like 3 lines of code. And you're like, okay, if I don't know anything about code, I don't know where that code is supposed to go. Like, what am I supposed to replace?
Well, even if you know how to code, I mean, I know how to code decently. Like, it's still annoying. So I feel kind of dumb now for not having done this. So I get where you're going. So like, he has shorthands to tell it, and he makes sure to tell it, like, give me the entire code.
Exactly.
Probably.
He has a shorthand that's like, I don't remember what his actual short code is, but it might be like CCC or something like that. He'll put like CCC at the end of one of his prompts, but it's a short code to like remind it, give me the entire code. Don't just give me like what needs to be replaced. Right. And I thought that was really smart. I started implementing that when I start playing around with code as well. I always tell it, give me the entire code. Don't give me just what I need to replace. And like the little short code thing saves quite a bit of time on that aspect.
Yeah, I need to be doing that because I've definitely used Claude for coding and and I've done that many times where like it'll give me the small little snippet. I'm like, damn it, now I gotta go like read through the code and it'll take like 30 seconds or a minute. Like, give me the whole thing. And I always wonder why it doesn't do that. Maybe because it's like, it's saving energy, or I have no idea why they're doing it, like saving compute or something. I don't know, but it is annoying where it'll just like give you a small snippet. And it's like,
yeah. And you can even, the funny thing is, I even have it in my system prompt of like, when I ask you to generate code, generate the entire code. Don't just tell me what needs to be replaced. And it literally always ignores that. Like, you need to, for whatever reason, put it in the prompt. It doesn't work in the system prompt. It's so annoying. I'm sure that'll get patched up soon, but for whatever reason, it ignores that part of the system prompt. So the next thing I'll share is, I'm going to share a little Perplexity tip. This one will be pretty quick here. One thing that I think is pretty overlooked inside of Perplexity, but I feel is pretty powerful, is they have a feature here where if I go to my library and go to this page feature here, this page feature inside of Perplexity will essentially create like a little mini like Wikipedia any topic you want it to create, right? So if I hear about like a concept that I don't understand very well, but I want to learn more about it, I'll come to this page feature inside of Perplexity and have it actually generate like a little mini Wikipedia for me. So for example, let's say I want to learn quantum computing, right? Like I don't understand quantum computing. I can literally just type quantum computing, hit the little button to tell it to go, and then it will literally just start generating essentially a Wikipedia page that explains everything I can possibly want to know. Well, probably not everything. There's probably quite a bit of depth to quantum computing, but it can explain pretty much everything a surface level person might want to know about quantum computing. So you can see quantum speedups in database searches, quantum algorithms for optimization problems, quantum error mitigation techniques. And it's just got like this whole page now with sources that I can click into and click over to the websites to learn more. And maybe there's something that it's missing, like let's say overlap of quantum computing and AI. I'll hit plus, and now it's just going to add a little section that tells me all about the overlap of quantum computing and AI and how they're related and things like that. So this to me has been really, really powerful whenever I sort of get a new concept in my mind that I'm like, I need to dig into that a little bit more. Like this tool is really powerful for just like diving deeper and deeper and deeper, because I can go here, just tell it to insert another section and add more about it. Quantum speedups in database searches. Okay, there's not enough info there for me. I'll click more. Oh, that doesn't do what I thought it did. I thought it was going to actually add more to it, but it doesn't. But I can just come down here.
It saves this as an actual page too, right?
Yeah, it saves it as an actual page. So if I come back to my library here, I have a tab here for threads, which are like the questions I've asked Perplexity. Then I have pages here, and you can see like it's right there. I can get right back to this. And it's also shareable. I can click publish up here in the top right of this Perplexity page. And when I publish it, it's going to give me a link that I can share. And now I can send this link to anybody I want, and they can see my quantum computing revolution page that I had generated for me here in a matter of a minute. So I found that to be really powerful.
Yeah, I saw some people on SEO Twitter talking about this, saying that like actually these pages are ranking quite well right now. So for listeners, that might be something. I haven't tested it myself. I don't know if it works well, but it definitely probably, if you're relying on SEO, maybe it's a good strategy to test.
How would we get our website in here though? Let's say, so if I get to this version where I can edit, I want to try to see if I can like inject my link. Quantum computing and futuretools.io. Let's see if it'll actually generate content around that relationship. 5 source. Hey, it linked to Future Tools. Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, I've been hearing like, people are saying like there's like a kind of a SEO hack right now. I'm not sure. I haven't tested it myself, but people are saying this is like a great way to like get links to your site and maybe some traffic. I'm not sure if the backlinks are follow links or not. I'm not sure, but
we're figuring out cool use cases in real time on this episode right now.
yeah. That they really nailed that. I read about this, but I haven't actually tried it. I should have tried it. It looks so cool. It's like cooler than I expected. My buddy Jude, who was like an early guy at YC, he did something similar, or he tried to, called Golden back a few years ago. And I think they were mostly relying on manual, and they tried to shift to AI. And it was like right when AI was just starting, and just it ended up not going. I think he sold the company for a decent amount, but it didn't get as big as he hoped. But he was trying to do the same kind of thing. Because actually I was sitting there thinking like, hey, maybe lore.com's a great name for that too, or something this, right? Like, the same kind of thing, like the lore behind some kind of, maybe like more like fantasy and consumer kind of stuff versus like businesses. But
no, it's really cool. It's a great tool for just sort of deep diving on a concept, and you could just keep adding new sections and deep diving into various topics on this, on this page. I can even like select and highlight certain areas, and it will sort of extrapolate on certain areas that I highlight as well. So just a cool deep dive tool.
You could use it as a learning tool, but you probably could use it as a way to communicate things to your team or something they should know about or to learn. You could kind of curate, like, here's all the information on a topic that's actually relevant that you should learn. And
I was building out a page not too long ago that was all about YouTube growth strategies. right? And I just kept on having it add new sections about ways to grow on YouTube. And it just kept on finding more information about YouTube growth strategies and adding new sections related to how to grow on YouTube. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like I could just get lost in this.
That's so cool. I've read about it. I thought it was cool. And I'm like, now like thinking like, yeah, I got to go play with this. So I'm probably going to do that after the show.
Yeah.
Cool. So this one is from our friend Bilawal Sidhu, who does the TED AI podcast.
Yep.
I thought this was kind of cool. He's showing how you can use Ideogram 2.0, like one of the new AI art tools that we recently talked about, to make YouTube thumbnails. It's not perfect. I mean, I would say it's probably not as good as like the ones we're currently making or on your YouTube channel. But it's really good at text. Like used to, that was a thing that AI art really struggled with. It was like getting text on an image. And now apparently like they've just like completely nailed text. Like it works.
Ideogram's the best at text for sure. Nothing comes close to what Ideogram can do.
Yeah. And he said apparently, actually he tags you here. Apparently, they're working on likeness. So you probably can do, kind of like how you do where you have like AI art that's similar to your face and use that as a thumbnail. Like apparently that's in the works. So probably in the next few months, you'll be able to make like, your own thumbnails just using Ideogram versus like having to pay someone or spend a bunch of time in Photoshop or whatever. So I think for people who are doing YouTube or have YouTube channels or, this is a great use case. And also maybe even for like presentations, right? Like if you're making a corporate presentation, like people love to have like fancy looking art with text over it. Yeah. In presentations, it makes your presentation to the next level. I think people right now should be using Ideogram for that. Yeah.
Does he break down a workflow there? Is there like a specific process he's using to get those results? Or is he basically just saying like, hey, Ideogram is great at this?
As far as I can tell, he's just saying Ideogram is great at this. I don't think there's any like,
because I can see the thumbnails that it made and it looks good. They almost look like a type of thumbnail you might see on like an NPR sort of YouTube channel or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious what the prompts would be to get it looking like that, right? Because the way it's sort of the text is justified to the left in the bottom left corner of the images, like on the reality bending 3D captures, the word captures is highlighted in blue. Like, I wonder if there was like some prompt tricks that he used to get that, or if he just like said, make an image that says this, Yeah, I mean, right now, like my process for YouTube thumbnails is pretty much create an image with AI, and then inject my face into it, and then pull it into Canva and add the text on top. Because I haven't really gotten the AI generators to sort of stylize the text I like, or like put it in the exact location that I like yet. So if Ideogram, if you can go and get that granular, I want the text left aligned in the bottom left corner of the image, and I want this. This image aspect, the aspect of the thumbnail to be up in the top right corner. Like if you could sort of dial that stuff in, that'll be really, really awesome. That would save a lot of time and it'll save a few extra steps for people.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
Do you have any spicy ones like on our episode the other day?
How I make all of my AI girlfriends. My harem of AI girlfriends.
Here's how you can get around the restrictions or whatever.
So here's what I'll share. So this one is going to be a little bit more in the weeds. This is actually how I add tools to future tools. Now, this is probably not going to be super relevant to everybody watching, but I think this should give people ideas of the types of workflows they can build to sort of run their businesses and make them a little bit more automated behind the scenes, right? Obviously, this exact step-by-step process is not going to be something you'll need in your business, but hopefully it gets the wheels turning of what these tools are capable of. So when I come across a new tool that I want to add to future tools, there's a tool that I'm going to add to future tools right now going through this process. There's this tool called Spotter, which is a YouTube tool, which helps you come up with titles and thumbnails and, break down hooks for your YouTube videos and stuff like that. It's a tool that I use, right? But it's not on future tools yet. So when I want to add it to future tools, here's what I do. I copy the URL in my browser. I come over to this Google Sheet spreadsheet. I have a little tab that I call the machine, and I plug in the URL here to this input URL. Then I have a make.com automation set up that does a whole bunch of steps. So all I do is I plug in this input URL. I go to make.com. They call like they're, in Zapier, they call them zaps. Make.com, they call them scenarios. So I have this scenario called integration scraping bee here. And what it does is it watches that Google sheet that I just showed you for a new entry into this input URL here. And then it uses a site called Scraping Bee, which goes and takes all of the content that's on that website. So it will go and look at spotter.la or whatever the URL was. It will look at that site and it will look at all of the text on that site and it will scrape it all. Once it scrapes all of that content, it then goes into a Chat GPT. This is actually using GPT-4 right here. It will actually go into GPT-4 and you can see my prompt that I give it here. Summarize what this tool does in a single paragraph, include what it can be used for and why people might want to use it. Your response should begin with the name of the tool, right? So basically like Spotter does X, Y, and Z. And so it takes everything that was scraped. You can see the message content here is what was scraped, and then additional message content is to summarize this. So it summarizes it into a paragraph, and then it takes that paragraph and it tells it to summarize it into a short little snippet, right? So if you go to the Future Tools website, the homepage shows just like a 1-sentence snippet of what a tool does. And when you click in, you see a longer paragraph about what that tool does. So this second run through of ChatGPT here, it says, in as few words as possible, describe what this tool does in one short sentence. Your response should begin with the name of the tool. So same idea, it just takes the longer paragraph, moves it to the next step in this workflow here and makes a 1-sentence version of it. And then the last step here, so this one actually, if you look back at my spreadsheet here, you can see you've got the input URL, we've got our short description, our long description, and the tool name. So the last one basically just pulls in the tool name, right? It just looks at the website, says, what is this tool called? And it pulls in the tool name by looking at the website here. So what is the name of this tool? Your reply should have no extra sentence or details. Please simply output the name of the tool and nothing else. And then once it does that, it takes everything it just pulled, it scrapes it, makes a long paragraph, makes a short sentence, figures out the title, and then injects it back into the Google Sheet. So let's pretend I'm pulling in otter.ai and it's not on the website yet. I could put the input URL as otter.ai, come over here. I'm going to make sure it's running the right thing. I'll press run once, and now it'll run through the whole process. It's scraping the sales page, using ChatGPT to summarize it. So we can see it pulled in the tool name of Otter AI here. Over on the short description, Otter AI provides automated note-taking and real-time transcription for meetings. Over in the long description, you can see here that it's a much more in-depth explanation of what Otter AI does. And so now it's basically created my short description, the title, the long description, and it also automatically pulled in the featured image from the website. That's not an AI thing. That's just something that I have it import through Google Sheets with. And then once that's done, I actually have a separate little automation that runs after that that basically creates the short link and uploads it to Webflow for me. So I would go.
That's awesome.
Choose where it is. All right. I run this one once, and this one's giving me an error. But the only reason it's giving me an error is because I've already got this tool on my site. But what you'll notice here is it would have filled in this main tool URL with the new URL that it created, and then it would just automatically add it to the Webflow website. But if I look over at the Future Tools website here, it's giving me an error right now, but the reason it's giving me an error is because if I search out Otter, there it is. So you can see it's already loaded on the website, so it's giving me an error. It won't actually let me add a new tool that's already on the website. But that's the whole workflow. I told you it's sort of in-depth and in the weeds, but I wanted to show it because I really love this make.com site, right? If you've ever used Zapier, Zapier can do a lot of the same kind of stuff, but you can create these amazing workflows where it does things like scrape a website and then create a long paragraph, create a short paragraph, grab the title for me, and then put all of that information into a spreadsheet for me. So whether you're doing any sort of like data analysis and you're going in, trying to pull a bunch of data off a whole bunch of websites, you can use a workflow like this, right? It lets you do a whole bunch of stuff in bulk. And this will also work if, let's say I have like 20 tools listed here, it'll just one at a time go through the list and follow that same process for every tool in the list.
Yeah, I mean, that workflow is awesome. The whole time you were talking, I was sitting there thinking like, that's really cool, but it's also very complicated. And like, God, this is the kind of stuff that agents are gonna like simplify, right?
Yes.
Right. And so, and I was wondering like, okay, Make's cool, Zapier's cool. Do those sites still exist in the future? Like when you have agents, like maybe that's why Dharmesh is making that agent.ai thing. Maybe he's realized like those kind of sites are going to be simplified down into like, okay, here are the agents, and here's like the kind of the instructions for the agents. Yeah. And then you just hand the agents your API keys, and it does all that. Right? Like automatically.
I mean, it's a little bit more hands off than I think I made it look, because I had to like turn off the automations from running automatically so that I could demo them on the video.
Right.
So literally what I'm doing when I add a new tool to the website is I'm plugging in the URL of the website, and then it just goes and does the rest, right? It's watching the Google Sheet for new information being added in like, I don't know, every half hour or every hour or something like that. It comes back, double checks the Google Sheet to see if there's any new information on the Google Sheet. If there is, it goes through the list and runs the automation. So my role in all of this is literally just adding a URL to the input URL on the Google Sheet, and then all of the rest of it happens behind the scenes automatically. So it's sort of like I created my own little AI agent, but you're right. I think in the future, I won't have to build all that. I'll just have to tell like an AI or like a chatbot, here's what I want you to do. And it will build all those automations that I just sort of showed you the workflow for.
Yeah, but then like I said, it'll probably just ask you your API keys. It'll save that somewhere secure so it remembers it for the future. And it'll just do all of that. That's going to be so awesome.
Yeah. So share something less complex, because that one was really in the weeds.
mine's way less complex. So so this is something I started doing recently. So right now I'm kind of working, I've had lore.com for a long time, and I've been trying to figure out what to do with it. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what to do with it beyond, like, I like writing my newsletter, but I feel like it's such a great domain. I should be doing something more with it. Right? And originally I bought the domain because I was trying to do the movie studio with Barry Osborne. And so I've been interested in using it for something more entertainment related for a long time. So right now I'm doing this thing called Lore Labs. It's kind of like a AI video agency and a kind of community to help people figure out how to create AI videos as well. Still figuring it out. So I've been working with these two great guys, one of them who makes some of the best AI videos I've ever seen. I'm not announcing who he is yet, but we're collaborating on it. And so we've got a Slack full of, different conversations about like, okay, what should be our strategy, pricing, what's the initial strategy, what are we going to try if that doesn't work? Like, lots and lots of conversations to figure everything out. And then we're having weekly meetings. And then one thing I realized that AI is really good at, and I think other people could use it this way too, is like using AI is almost like a meeting agenda. Like, okay, you're having a meeting, you've been having all these conversations through email or Slack or whatever. Just throw them all in there into Claude, and you make a custom project for it or whatever, and then say, hey, what are the actual like things that need to be decided upon? What are the like action items you need to do? Key takeaways from the conversations, and then just have it create the meeting agenda automatically that way. Versus like, well, you're gonna sit there like 30 minutes and like type up the meeting agenda and have to remember what you actually talked about.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing now. Is I literally just copy and paste all of it in there, and like I've told it, here's how I want my meetings structured. Here's the conversations. Figure out the agenda. and then send it out. So
that's super smart. So you're basically, let's say you've got some emails, you've got some DMs, you've got some tweets. I don't know. You've got all of these various places that you've had communication. You just pull all of these pieces of content in these communications you've had, put them into Claude, and say, I'm about to meet with this person. Based on everything I just put into your input, how should we keep this meeting on track? Write an agenda for me.
Yeah, totally. And ideally, you have like an agent for that in the future, right? Like it actually goes out there and like, we're talking on email, we're talking on Slack, and whatever. Yeah, go and get that for us, and then actually create the invite. That's like the next step, right? To actually do all of it. But right now, I'm manually copying and pasting, and then but it still saves me probably 20 minutes or so. But because some meetings, it's like, okay, what did we talk about in the past, or what's actually important to discuss? just tell the AI like what you want, like how do you like meetings to be structured?
Yeah. Well,
feed the data in. It's pretty good.
What's even cooler too now is this is just a brand new feature, came out this week actually. The week that we're recording this, the week that we're recording this, there was a new feature in Google Meet where now we'll summarize the meetings, right? This has been in Zoom for a little while now, but Google Meet just rolled out the feature where it will, if you turn it on, it's not always listening to your calls, but if you turn it on, it will listen to your calls and basically summarize the meeting for you and make like a to-do list off of the meeting, like an action item list kind of thing. And so let's say you need to have a second call with that person, a follow-up call. Well, on that follow-up call, you just grab the meeting notes from your last call, plug that in and say, here's what we talked about last time, and
what progress has been made, what's unresolved, what do we need to discuss? Yeah, it's awesome.
So really, really cool. No, I think these are some awesome ideas, and I really like this format. Like, I love this format of just here's some of the cool ways we're using them. I think we're going to get to a point where we're like, all right, we're running out of use cases that we use ourselves, but we're constantly out there like fishing for other use cases. We're watching Twitter and YouTube and Reddit and all these places where people are sharing their cool AI use cases. So I think it'll be cool. I think maybe next time we do one of these, we'll bring like a bunch of like, here's some cool workflows that we came across that other people are using that we think you should know about. No, but this has been a fun discussion. Once again, let us know your thoughts in the comments wherever you're listening to this. If you're on YouTube, let us know your thoughts. If you have some cool use cases that you want to share and you want us to maybe shout them out on a future episode, share them in the comments. That might be a really great way to discover new workflows. If we talk about your workflow, we'll shout out your name on the episode and let everybody know that came from you. But I think we're probably going to do more of these episodes. So let us know what you think of them in the comments, either on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening to podcasts. And if you want to make sure more of these podcasts show up in your feed, make sure you like and subscribe. We really, really appreciate it. It makes us feel all warm and fuzzy. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you so much.